everybody. This is Dr. Laura Froyen, and I have my PhD in Human Development and Family Studies. And I am so excited to be talking to you today about helping our children and ourselves solve problems with our kiddos. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that this gets shared in my communities. If you're not in my Balanced Parenting community, I'd love to have you there. I answer questions and give you support on how to be the most mindful, connected, and kind of well-nourished parents that you can be, because that's what balanced parenting is all about. All right, let's get started. So I want to hear from you if you have tried problem solving with your kids and how it's gone, what roadblocks you run into, what struggles you have with it, and how I can help and support you. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the kind of 5 common mistakes that parents traps that they kind of fall into right at the beginning of starting a problem-solving conversation with their child that set them off on the wrong foot and kind of get them to a place where their kids are not talking to them. So often when I start talking with parents about problem solving with their kids, I hear things like, well, we've tried that before and my kid just shuts down, or they won't say anything. Or when I ask them what's going on or why they do the things that they do, they just say things like, I don't know, or they get mad and fly off the handle, or they just walk away, or they ignore me and they give me a cold shoulder or the silent treatment. If that's happening for you when you are trying to solve problems with your kids, I want you to know that you are not alone in that. It's really common to have that happen. And it's really frustrating too, because you are trying to be collaborative with your kids. You're trying to find out what's going on for them. Oftentimes you have worked hard to get to a place of empathy and compassion, and you're going in to it with the desire to partner with them to solve these problems so that you don't keep having fights or disagreements or moments when they are really disrespectful or pushing back, or where people are getting hurt or feelings are getting hurt. And you're trying to approach this in the best way that you can, and you're trying to solve the problem with them. You're trying to partner with them, and then it backfires on you, or they shut down, or they don't help you. And so and the reason for that oftentimes has to do with how you are approaching the conversation with your child, your mindset, and the way that you start the conversation. So I'm going to share with you the 5 kind of biggest or most common mistakes I hear about or I see parents making when they're attempting to problem solve with their kids, and how to remedy each of them. And that's what I want to share with you today. So the first one that I see a lot come up is that they tend to have a mindset or lens that they're viewing children through that hasn't been fully shifted to the idea that kids are doing well when they can. So they're coming to the problem-solving conversation with this mindset that is predisposing them to see their kids' behavior as a problem. It predisposes them to focus on negative behaviors, the behaviors that they don't want to see, and it predisposes you to thinking that your kids have a choice in the matter. So when you can know that you are in that mindset, or that you haven't made the appropriate mindset shift, if you are still thinking about your kids and the negative behaviors that they're displaying and the problems that you're trying to solve with them, if you are still thinking that they are choosing to do that. So if you're using language like, earlier today you chose to do X, Y, and Z, or it seems like you decided that, yelling at me was a good way to get what you wanted. If you're using choose and decided, that those are clues to you that you are thinking that they made a conscious decision to engage in the negative behavior that you're trying to get on the other side of. And if you're approaching these problem-solving conversations with the idea that that kids are doing these things on purpose to make us angry, or are being defiant, or kind of not meeting our expectations on purpose, you're setting yourself up for failure right before you even start the conversation. That mindset shift, that lens change, is so critically important to starting these conversations well. So the way you view your child and your child's behavior is one of the most profound and important things you can do. And it's before you say anything out loud to your kids. So working on that lens shift, working to see your kids as doing well when they can, and knowing that if they are not doing well in the moment, it's not because they're choosing not to do well, or they have, they don't have the ability to, or sorry, that it's some active choice. I'm sorry, I just was getting a phone call and it distracted me. So you really need to come to the place of understanding that kids do well when they can. And if they're not doing well, it means that they either have some unmet needs that are reducing their ability to do well in that situation. So maybe they do well in that situation when they're well rested, or when they're well fed, or when they haven't been spending time regulating. But now in this moment, if they aren't able to do it, they really likely can't be doing it right now, or they might be having some lagging skills that make it hard for them to meet our expectations in those moments. And so it's really important that you get that mindset shift accomplished first before you try to go into any problem solving conversations with your kids. Because if you don't have that mindset shift in place already, if you don't have that good lens of viewing kids as doing well when they can in place already, then you're going to say things, and the language you use and even the attitude that you project in the conversation is going to set kids up to be defensive. It's going to set them up to not want to talk with you. It's going to set them up to not want to partner with you, because you won't seem safe to them. You won't seem like you are assuming the best of them. And nobody wants to partner with someone who is thinking the worst of them in the moment. So that piece of it is so important. So that's the mindset shift. And then I'm just going to glance at my notes and make sure I get them in the right order. The next one, so I'm sharing, I think, 3 that are kind of before words even come out of your mouth. And then the last 2 are going to be kind of the mistakes around the words that are coming out of your mouth as you start a conversation. So the next one that I see parents the mistake that I see parents making all the time is that they come to the conversation, they come to the problem solving attempt with solutions already in mind. Now, of course, it's okay to kind of come prepared. You maybe have thought about what's getting in your kid's way in meeting the expectations that they're having trouble meeting. Maybe you've already thought of some solutions to, have some ideas, but many parents go into the conversation already having decided on the solution. So having a few that are possibilities is great, kind of having them in your back pocket and ready to pull out. But when you come to the conversation already having decided on what the best solution is going to be, you're not open to hearing what your child has to say. And honestly, if we are really partnering with our kids and we really want to know what it is that is getting in their way of meeting our expectations, and we have never asked them before, then it's really hard to come up with solutions ahead of time if we really don't know what's going on for them. We might have theories, we might have guesses. I mean, you guys know your kids better than anyone else. You really are the expert on your kids, except for, the fact that they know themselves even better than you. They know their experience even better than you. And so if you haven't asked them, you're just coming in with theories and guesses, and the solutions that you maybe are predisposed to think are going to work might be based on a lack of information and a lack of true understanding for what's going on with your kids. So yes, go into the conversations maybe with a little bit of, maybe some possible solutions, but go in with an open mind and not already having decided, so that they can tell you what's getting in the way of them meeting your expectations, and use that information to generate the solution. And, if you're going in kind of already decided what the solution is going to be, that attitude right there is not collaborative, and kids can sense it. Kids are really good at knowing what's going on in our minds. They're really good at sensing our ulterior motives. They're really good at sensing an adult agenda. And so if we go into it kind of already decided what we're going to do about the problem that we're trying to solve, they can tell. And again, will be able to feel that we are not truly interested in partnering with them, and they're going to clam up and shut down. So yeah, absolutely have some ideas about what might work, but go in with an open mind. It's so critical that you do that. And then the last one, so I'm sharing 3 that are kind of the mindset or kind of the way that you set up the conversation. So we've talked about that you haven't fully shifted your lens to kids do well when they can. We just talked about coming into the conversation with your solution already set in your mind and not having an open mind. And then the third one, in terms of setting yourself up for success, is, and this is the mistake that I see so many parents make, it's when they are trying to engage in these problem-solving conversations in the moment. So when the child is having a problem, when they are not meeting our expectations, when they're having challenging behaviors and they're displaying them, so often we as parents want to go right in there in the moment and solve that problem. And the problem with that is that, like, those kids are not in a place to solve the problems. If they're having really challenging behaviors, if they're hitting or kicking or using language that we don't like to see, the learning centers of their brain are likely turned off. Their language and emotion processing centers in their brains are also likely turned off. And in that moment, they are not capable of rational thought, of discussion, of processing. They're not capable of perspective taking. They don't have any of the skills that they would need to have a good problem solving conversation. And even if they, it's likely that they're in this situation because they already don't have those skills to begin with. And so if we go in when they're already having a problem and we're in the midst of the problem and try to do kind of an emergency problem solving session, it's never going to be successful because they don't have the skills that they need. And likely when that's happening, we're probably triggered too. We're probably feeling frustrated or flustered or kind of exasperated, and we aren't bringing our best selves to that problem-solving conversation either. And it's so important that we choose our timing well. And so if the mistake I see parents make is trying to get in to the problem-solving discussion in the moment, the way I want you to fix that is by, one, either waiting a long time, maybe even until the next day, until things have calmed down and settled, so that you can have these problem-solving conversations with your kids, or getting proactive. And that's what collaborative and proactive solutions, as taught by Dr. Ross Green and the Lives in the Balance website, teaches you how to do, is how to get ahead of it so that you're not trying to solve all of these problems in an emergency or kind of retrospectively, but you're getting proactive with it. And it's so important to do. I do want to let you know my kiddos are here with me, and I hear one of them who just came out of their rest, so we might be interrupted. I think my husband's going to deal with it, but maybe, I don't know if that's going to happen. So I really want you guys to work on not trying to solve the problems in the moment. I really want you to work as much as you can to try to get proactive. If we can predict that our kids are going to explode over a certain thing every single time, or they're going to have a struggle, every time they do X, Y, and Z, if we're in a situation, like if we know it's going to happen, those are the ones we can problem solve. If we can predict it, we can get ahead of it and have that problem solving conversation before it's actually a problem, and then put the solution in place that we worked together and partnered with our kids to create. Okay, so then the next two that I want to share with you, the next two mistakes that parents make all the time, are in the framing of this kind of how we start the conversation with our kids. These are focused on the words that you actually say. So the first one is that most parents tend to focus on the behavior that they don't want to see when they start having these conversations. So they focus in on all of the challenging behaviors and all of the things that kind of crop up when kids are having a hard time meeting expectation. And here's the thing: no one looks good when they are trying to meet an expectation that they don't have the skills to meet, and they're kind of bumping up against expectations that they aren't able to meet. No one looks good. Adults don't look good in that situation. Parents don't look good in that situation. Teachers don't. Employees don't. And kids don't either. And so if we're focusing on the behaviors that crop up when they are bumping up against expectations that they can't meet, or they're not able to meet right then we are kind of those are behaviors that are largely out of their control, because they're already triggered, they're already flooded, and they already don't have the skills. Like, if they had the skills to do well in that situation, they would be already using them. And so if we're focusing in on the behaviors that we don't want to see, it leaves us in this place where the kids are feeling blamed, they're feeling judged, and they clam up and they shut down. And they also really feel like they're in trouble when we start focusing on the behaviors that that we don't want to see. They know that, other, like, beyond the age of 2, they know what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. And if it's a problem that comes up consistently, they know. We don't need to tell them that they shouldn't hit us or shouldn't swear at us or call us names or hit their sisters. They know those things. And if they could prevent themselves from doing those things in that moment, they would have. And they're not able to. And so by focusing on those things, it doesn't serve a purpose. It derails the conversation before it even gets started. And so I want you to, the way you fix this mistake is by focusing on the behaviors you do want to see, and the context that they're happening in. So if you are tired of your kids having, your one daughter hitting your other kid when she wants a toy that the other one is using, you don't focus on the hitting behavior. You focus on what you do want to see. So you might start the conversation with something like, I've noticed you've been having a really hard time asking your sister for a toy you want to use. And you leave out all of the other stuff. You just start the conversation with what you do want to see and then the circumstance. So basically you have to get super clear on what your expectations are for the child in that moment. And you start the conversation by stating those expectations and just kind of gently lob it out there. I've noticed it's been hard for you to meet this expectation recently. What's going on? And that's it. And in doing so, you will also remedy the next big mistake that I see parents make, is that they use, so when you're starting these conversations, oftentimes parents use judgments and labels to describe the child or their behaviors. And that just gets kids off on the wrong foot again. It makes them feel defensive. It makes them feel like they're being attacked. And it also makes them feel like they're in trouble. Even like my kids have never really had a punitive punishment ever. All punishment is punitive. They've needed to rest their bodies. I've had to take things away, and put them away, but all consequences have, for the most part, been natural or logical in our house. And they still know what it feels like to be in trouble. They still know what it feels like to have me disapprove of their behaviors. It doesn't feel good. And when we feel that way, even as adults, we get defensive. So like if I'm having a conversation with my husband about an expectation that he didn't meet that I had, I start off with like, man, you really let me down. That, when you didn't do that, it was, it like made me feel X, Y, and Z. If I come at it from that perspective, he's going to get defensive. He's going to shut down. It's human nature to get defensive when we list out all the ways that we've done something wrong, or we've screwed up, or we've disappointed someone. And it doesn't open up a conversation. It shuts it down. And so if you want to open up a conversation, you have to take all of that sense of disapproval, of disappointment, and all of the negative language, all of the things around behavior that we don't want to see, and you have to remove it from the conversation. Look, I get it. I know that it is frustrating to have your kid consistently hit their sibling when they want a toy. I know it is frustrating to have them call you names when they are not getting their way. I know that it's frustrating that they pitch a fit when you have to put the iPad away. It's a lot and it's frustrating. But if your goal is to partner with your kid and have those conversations and solve those problems proactively, then you're going to have to kind of regulate yourself and vent to other folks who get it, and leave that piece of it out of the conversation. Because if we bring it in, if we list all the ways that we're frustrated with our kids, if we pile up on them, if we even just a little hint of that frustration will make them defensive. It will make them feel like they are in trouble, and it will shut them down, and you won't get anything out of them. So those are the five things that I wanted to share with you today, the 5 mistakes that parents make. And I think they're so important. And I want to see you trying something different with them. So if you find yourself wanting to bring in the behaviors you don't want to see, shift and ask yourself, what do I want to see out of my child? So you've been having difficulty asking sweetly for a cup of water. Like, that can open up a conversation in a much different way than I'm so tired of you demanding. I want to figure out what we can do to get you to figure out how to ask me for a glass of water without demanding. It sets the tone. And so like all of those, like you could even go back and watch my video on soft startups that I have. And it's around the couple relationship, but kids need soft startups too when it comes to having a problem solving conversation with them. I think sometimes we think that because they're little, they don't get to have the same difficulties that we do. It just is a part of our human nature in having a conversation with us. And they're not entitled to this kind of full range of human emotion and complexity in communications. They need us just as much as our partners do, just as much as our like adult parents do. They need us to start softly in our conversations. They need us to be really clear before we have a conversation on what are our expectations and start the conversation in that way. They need us to shift our mindset and view them as doing well when they can, and to view them through a lens of compassion and curiosity. These conscious communication tools apply to everyone. They apply to our couple relationships, but they apply to our kids too. They're just as deserving of grace and compassion. And when we approach a conversation in that way, when we start softly, that's when they start opening up. That's when they start believing that we want to partner with them. They start believing that they're not in trouble and that we're not here to just point out all the ways that they've screwed up in the past week. That we're not here to just kind of tell them again what we have to do. Oftentimes it takes, if you've been trying to have problem solving conversations with your kids, or if you've been parenting in this kind of top down approach, this non-collaborative approach, it takes a little bit of time to rebuild their trust and to help them gain confidence in you, that you are going to really listen to them this time, that you really are curious, that you have no judgments, that you're not labeling them, and you're not going to shame them for what's been going on, that you really see them as wanting to do well, like that you're coming from this place of, hey, kiddo, you've been struggling. This is really hard for you. And I want to know what's getting in the way. Tell me what's getting in the way, and we will figure out how to support you. We'll figure out how to adjust the expectations so that you can meet it. And that sense of wanting to partner with your kids has to be there first. And so really your homework then in this context is to do that internal work, do that mindset shift, that lens change, so that you can come to these conversations with your kids from a place of being deeply curious about their experience, really wanting to know what's getting in their way of meeting your expectations, and helping them and partnering with them to either adjust the expectations or give them the supports that they need to be successful. And we're most of the time, when they come up with solutions after they've been heard and witnessed, and they are partnered with us in the process of coming up with the solutions, that we haven't come to it with a solution already in mind and we just kind of hear them out, pay lip service to the empathy and compassion, and then say, okay, so this is what I've decided. We can actually work together and we check in, does this solve your problem? Does this meet your concerns? Is this going to make it easier for you to meet the expectation? And only sign off on solutions that are mutually satisfactory. That's when we have buy-in, and that's when we find solutions that work. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to share with you. Liza Marie says that this is all so true and also so hard. I know it is hard, and it's not We don't have to be perfect at it right from the very beginning. This is practice. And that's something that with the clients that I work with in this process, I just recently got certified to provide support in collaborative and proactive solutions, the model that's taught by Ross Green in The Explosive Child, or Raising Human Beings, or on the website livesinthebalance.org. When I work with the clients on this process, I really have to work to, I really impress upon them, and that we share this with the kids too, that we are all learning a new way of communicating together. That we did it differently in the past because that's how we grew up, and those are the only communication tools we knew, and they clearly aren't working for our family anymore. And so we're partnering with me to learn these new tools, and the parents are learning a new way to communicate with the kids, and that the kids are helping the parents learn this new way. And they're going to make mistakes, and we're all going to just need to make room for it being messy and making mistakes. And we have to trust that the more and more we practice, the better and better it's going to get. And we will get better at it over time and with practice. Okay, so let me know if you have questions, if you are interested in learning how to do collaborative and proactive solutions, that approach to solving problems collaboratively and proactively with your kids. Reach out to me, send me a message, let me know. I have really limited availability for taking on new clients right now, what with everything going on and my kids, learning from home for the rest of the school year. But I absolutely can send you to resources and things that can support you. So keep in touch with me. Let me know if you have questions. And I hope to give another little talk on kind of the structure of a problem-solving conversation and how that can go with your kids next week. So look for that too. I hope to see you there. And let me know how it's all going. I hope that you take really good care of your family, take good care of each other, and of course, always start with yourself and take really good care of yourself. All right. Bye, everybody.